Well, hi Simon, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a cold but bright day here in sunny Mansfield.
Do you know what? That's one of my favourite weathers, cold and sunny, to be honest with you. I don't mind the cold, it's the rain that upsets me, but cold and sunny is a great combination, I think.
There's no such thing as the wrong weather, just the wrong clothes.
That's true. I disagree with it. Living in Scotland, I can very much disagree with that at times. I try to convince myself that's the case to try and get
Land
through
of midges.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about NHS to private conversions today.
Yeah.
You're very well placed to share your knowledge and expertise and wisdom about this area because this is something that you underwent a number of years ago, am I right in saying?
Yeah, my full private conversion was only recently, but I did an adults only conversion back in, it'd be 2005. It was the year before the new contract came out, and I looked at it and I thought, I can't sign that. I really cannot bring myself to sign it. So made the decision to do a full adult conversion and did a snap conversion. I didn't do it over a period of time, which I think, maybe there's different ways of doing it now. Whether a snap conversion would work in the same way, but luckily I had a chance to talk to virtually every single patient that I saw, and explained my reasoning why. And some will not convert, some cannot convert, some don't believe in it, some can't afford it. But fundamentally, it's been very, very successful. It's the best business decision I've made in dentistry.
Well, that's really good to hear. I know we're talking about children then converting the children as well, which that's more of a recent venture, isn't it?
Yeah, that was just after the pandemic. That was 2021, I think we did that.
Okay, and was that always on the cards, or was that pandemic kind of accelerated that decision?
No, it wasn't. I think fundamentally, I always have and always will have a support for the NHS and what it should do and what it should provide. And it made me feel a lot better about my private conversion, knowing that I'd still got a facility that was being underwritten in some way by taxpayers to provide for children who can't afford to pay for the treatment themselves. Now you can argue that the parents can, but that, let's just take that away. Children are the less fortunate of society in that respect because they don't have the income to do it, and you need to be able to communicate and connect with them from a dietary point of view to educate them. So we thought, if we've got a system where we can still see them on the NHS, then I was fine to do that, and I would have been fine to continue doing that had it not been for just the sheer explosion of bureaucracy and garbage that then gets thrown at you to comply with. And I found that we ran the NHS contract effectively at a loss, and it wasn't done to get the parents through the door. It was basically done to salve, if you like, our consciences, to still provide some care for them. And yes, it did get parents through the door. So, it did work from a business point of view. But, when you've got 1 to 2% of your income coming from a contract that takes 80% of your bureaucratic time to jump through the various hoops, you start thinking, hang on a minute, this is ridiculous. And the drivers behind it were actually my staff. And said, you can't continue at this kind of level of stress and bureaucracy when it's such a small part of your business.
It's interesting they recognised that, though, that it was having that impact on you.
I think it's important. I talk a lot about this with, when you're building your team. If they understand your values and they fully back you, they will do an awful lot of the hard work without you even realising that they're doing it. They were having the conversations. They were speaking to the parents on the phone. And when they truly believe why you're doing something, and hand on the heart, they share those values, they will back you probably sometimes better than you can word it yourself.
For sure. What are some of the key benefits you found then making this decision just after the pandemic? Do you feel it was the right one? What are some of the reasons behind doing this?
Well, it was definitely the right decision because I got rid of the bureaucracy, and that was driving me around the bend. And it freed me up mentally to carry on doing what we'd always done for the children. And one of the big issues was trying to jump through hoops to reach targets that were impossible, and then having clawback where no matter how well you budget things, the clawback sometimes seems to be a mythical figure that they've pulled out of the hat. It's not then about the returns. We ran the kids' contract effectively at a loss because we were doing private quality treatment, but using the UDA system, and you in a well cared for populace like we've got, you would rarely come across a case that needed 12 UDAs. I can't think of very many. That there might have been the odd onlay or something that was done in a 17, 18-year-old, something like that. But it was very, very, very difficult to actually hit the targets. And year on year on year, there was that stress. We've missed the target. You would go into your computer and say, I've not missed it by as much as you've said I've missed it, or there were years that I didn't miss it, but you said that I did. And I just thought, forget it. It's never been about the money. The conversions for me have never, ever been about money. It's been about the values of doing what I was trained to do and having a conversation with the person on a one-to-one basis, and not having a third party say, well, you can't do that, and you've got to hit this target, and you've got to hit that target.
How was it received then by patients, and how did you work out the pricing element? Obviously, there's a lot to think about when you do that. Was it taken on board okay?
It was taken on board by the majority.
Okay.
I did have some interesting comments from a local MP.
The media?
No, he wrote to me, sent me an email. And it was quite a scathing email, and I'm not known for sitting back and not saying anything.
I know that.
Well, this MP happened to have been an ex-Labour MP who then changed sides to the Conservatives, and he's now changed sides to Reform. So you probably can tell who I'm talking about.
That's an interesting political journey.
Yes, but I basically said, well, you can blame any of the governments that you've been involved with, because it's a Labour contract when you were in the Labour Party. It's now Conservatives, and it's not being funded and run properly. Blame who you want. Don't blame me for trying to just do the dentistry that I was trained to do.
Yeah.
And that really was only about it. There were a couple of patients, how dare you charge for children? That's not on. And that hurts a little bit, because you do think that's why I'd kept away from the conversion originally.
Yeah.
But you have to say, well, if I'm not here mentally, or if the bigger scale of things, if I was still an NHS practice, I would have probably gone bankrupt.
Well, that.
And a bankrupt dental practice is no good to anybody, because you can't see any patients. So I would say it was taken very, very well. Surprisingly, probably better than when we did the adult conversion.
Oh, that's good to hear. It makes your life a little bit easier as well.
It did. Well, it's not so much my life being easier. It was more the fact that the girls on reception, when they were dealing with it,
True.
Like I said earlier, because they believed in the reason for doing it, I didn't have to have a script and say, you need to say this, you need to say that. It was just a simple case of, why we've gone private, know why we're doing it, tell the truth. And that's all they did. As for the figures, I'm notoriously bad at figures. I am a back of a fag packet, although I don't smoke. I literally just think, what sounds about right?
Right. Okay.
And Practice Plan helped me a lot with that, because they helped me formulate the figures. And then, of course, I will come in with an idea that I don't want to charge that much. I think we need an introductory charge. Yeah. And it sort of worked out, because they were managing the rest of my Practice Plan base.
Fine.
They know the figures, so they know how much the rest of the Practice Plan patients were paying. They know what the turnover of the practice needs to be, and you can sort of tailor it. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
And actually, it generates less money now than the NHS contract that I had did. But I don't look at it and think, oh, it's costing me money. I look at it as being it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, it's not an opportunity, in my view, to make more money. It's an opportunity to free yourself of the shackles and the chains, if you like, of a system that we all accept is failing.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people who have been in the same position as you have either made that conversion, that step, or are looking to. How crucial was practice plan in this move? Is there support being? Obviously, you mentioned something there that they help sort of price it right. Is it being useful to have them to lean on?
Yeah. Lots of reasons why. I mean, I've had a good relationship with practice plan for a long time, and we get on. And they share. Well, they do. They share my values, and it's really important that you sort of do business, because fundamentally it is business. But it's important that you do business with an industry leader for a start, because they've got the experience, but that particularly shares the values of doing the right thing. And I knew that they had all the intelligence and all the data as to how these things work. So when you sort of putting your life in their hands business-wise, it had already worked once for me, which was the really big move, and that is scary. The second time round, it's slightly different with the children's conversion, but there wasn't any moment where there was loss of sleep or anything. It was once you've pressed that button, once you've mentally made the decision that it is the right thing to do, and that last little bit of socialism died when I realised I had to do it. Well, there was another little bit that died later, but that last little bit, just, you know, you've got to realise that you can only do what you can do.
It's true.
For as many people as you possibly can, the way that you want to do it.
It sounds like you really tried to hold on for as long as you could justify it, until there was a point where you were like, this is it, it's now or never, because if I don't do this now, I'm not going to be able to run this practice efficiently or safely, I guess. You know, you've got to be you and your staff have to be in the right headspace to do the dentistry that the country needs.
Absolutely. Nobody else can do it. We've still got the monopoly on it as dentists.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Simon, thank you. I really appreciate you being so honest.
No problem.
It's really important that people understand kind of the emotions that people go through in this process as well, particularly because I'm sure they're shared by a lot of people who might be watching this. So I really appreciate that, how candid you've been, and giving us a bit of insight into how that process works.
Not a problem at all. Anytime. Thank you.